About that? Now, is this a normal experience for coronavirus patients? Probably not. Here to shed some light on what it's like battling this disease on the front lines, cardiologist and chief scientific officer of Pacemate. That's Dr. Kevin Campbell. Dr. Campbell is also the author of the book, Losing Our Way in Healthcare, The Impact of Reform. And also joining us this afternoon, former White House physician, former chief medical advisor to President Trump, Dr. Ronny Jackson. Jackson currently also running for Congress as a Republican in Texas's 13th district. Dr. Campbell, let me ask you, we just showed someone who did recover a long time on a ventilator, 10 days, but they tried a different approach trying to move her apparently. Can you tell us what research is showing now about succeeding in fighting this?
Well, we do have some treatments available. Nothing has been completely studied. We do believe that proning, which is what the physician was talking about with this patient, where you turn the patient on their stomach and then on their back while you ventilate them, does seem to improve our ability to get them off the ventilator. We have multiple treatments, the hydroxychloroquine, the azithromycin, and now a new antiviral that seems to be promising. So I think we do have some tools, but we're not there yet. We've got a long ways to go.
Mr. Jackson, I want to bring you in now. We're hearing that tests are available, but unfortunately there are tight restrictions, so enough people aren't getting them. We're hearing that N95 masks are available, but unfortunately physicians are not able to get access to them. I'm wondering, I know you have your finger to the pulse of what's going on out in the field. What are you hearing?
Well, I'm hearing that, we're doing everything we can to get those out as quickly as possible. They're preferentially going to areas that are the most need right now. So there's some areas of the country that are a little stressed out right now, and rightfully so, that they're not receiving them in large quantities like some other areas in the country, but they're going to areas of need right now. So I think we just as a country have to be patient. We have to, if you're not getting them, I'm in the Texas Panhandle in North Texas. We're not getting a lot of that stuff up there because we don't actually have a need right now that in the same fashion that people out in Florida and New York and stuff, where the big epicenter of these outbreaks are. So I think it's a blessing that we're not getting them in some regards. They're coming our way. We'll get them when we need them. We're going to benefit from the fact that by the time, if it gets to the area where we're at, which I don't think that it will. I think it's going to burn itself out as we get to late spring, early summer. But if it does, we're going to benefit from the fact that the big mobilization of the production of all of this kind of stuff, and when it comes our way, we're going to have it. So I tell people to be patient. We'll get that stuff, and hopefully we're not even going to need it. Hopefully we're going to get to a point where we get our economy opened up again here in the next few weeks and months. Everybody gets back on track, and we can deal with this in the fall if we have to, but be much better prepared at that time.
Yeah, Dr. Campbell, let me go back to you about treating this specifically. We understand there are a wide range of different symptoms people have had, and one of the things being reported now are sores on the feet. Have you heard about that?
I have heard a little bit about that. It's common that we see some skin manifestations or skin signs when you have a bad viral infection. Still, the most common signs that we're seeing are going to be the cough, the shortness of breath, the overwhelming fatigue and body aches, and a high fever. When I say a high fever, for an adult to mount a fever of 102, 103 degrees, that's a big deal.
Well, it sounds like some people get a low-grade temperature for quite some time as well, Doctor.
Yes, it's an evolving process. The disease process, a lot of people don't even know they've been exposed, don't know they have it, and then it sort of rears its head as we go forward. The things to remember are that when you become short of breath, or if you get to that second phase of the disease, that's when you really have to pay attention. Make sure you've talked to your doctor. Make sure if you're eligible or should be treated with some of these medicines that you are. There's 3 phases. 1 is just the initial symptoms, the sore throat and the fever and the body aches. 2 is the respiratory phase. And then 3 is this overwhelming hyperimmune response where our bodies become so sick that they're on a ventilator, that our own immune systems are really attacking our own bodies. And that's the big thing that causes the huge mortality rates with this disease.
Dr. Campbell, you mentioned that immune response. Unfortunately, that is what happened to my mother-in-law, and she passed away from COVID-19. Doctors did try turning her on her stomach. That did not work for her, but I am hearing among younger patients and some other patients that that's actually helping. What is your experience with that?
We used proning back when I was training at Duke, 15, 20 years ago, in people who had terrible ARDS, which is a syndrome where like we see in COVID, where the lungs are filled with fluid. And the only way to ventilate them or to get oxygen to the body is to put them on their stomach and then rotate them every 12 to 24 hours. So it is a tried and true method, and it does work in some of these people with the severe respiratory illness related to COVID.
Yeah, in the time we have left, Dr. Jackson, what's the progress as far as getting testing, like for serology? I'm not a blood person, but I understand if you can find out whether you have antibodies, that would be very valuable.
Yeah, that's going to be key at some point. If you find out that you have the antibodies, it just tells you that you've been exposed to the virus. It doesn't tell you if you actually have the virus currently, so it has to be backed up with the other tests that test for the genetic material of the virus to see if you actively have an active infection or if you're recovering from infection. So it gives us some of the information, but it does tell us, who might be eligible to give, the antibodies, the convalescent antibodies to people who are critically ill. So that's one thing it does for us. It also tells us who has been exposed, so we may be able to get those people back to the work with the assumption that most of them are, if they're not actively sick and they have these antibodies, that they're able to go back to work, and we can assume that they're in the recovery phase. So it does give us some added information that will allow us to get people back to work. But I think this is falling off, and I think it's good news for us. I think that we are in a point right now where the president's going to put together the team that's going to lead us out of this from an economic standpoint. He had a great team together to start with that helped us along the way in the early days when we didn't know a lot about this.
All right, Doctor. Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it, Dr. Ronnie Jackson and Dr. Kevin Campbell. Thank you so much for being with us. Coming up, we will have continuing coverage of